Stitchless TV and I'm Tree, and today you're going to learn so much stuff. And now the sleeves. Because I've made it easy with this pattern by having the front and the back exactly the same, I don't have to think. All I have to do is to match up my armhole, match up my notches, line it up perfectly, which it nearly does, and just sew. So I've put my sleeve right sides together with my front, right sides together, and I'm just going to stitch it up with a straight stitch. So I'm using a straight stitch, D on the mini JL, go backwards and forwards to begin with, and it's the centimetre seam allowance. Make sure that you match up all of your notches and go all the way to the end. So that's all stitched up. Now I want you to go round and do it to all of the sides. So they're our fronts. So I've attached the sleeve onto the front there. You don't have to worry about backs and fronts and what goes where, because they're all the same. So I'm going to do the same with the other sleeve and attach it onto the front. And I want you to go all the way round and attach them onto the backs as well. So you've stitched up your sleeve onto your front and onto your back. We've done those two pockets there, but we need to finish them off now. Ordinarily, I would tell you to use a zigzag stitch, which is an F on your mini JL. But today, I'm going to introduce you to my, I don't know, it looks about 200 years old, doesn't it? my very, very old friend, the overlocker, which I believe in America is the serger. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick little demonstration of my overlocker, and you'll all run out and buy one. But before you do, just hang on a bit, because they are a bit of a nightmare to thread. So the good thing about a serger or an overlocker is that it cuts whilst it zigzags the edges, and it's very fast, and it gives a very professional finish. See that? I'm not trying to make you feel jealous, honest, but it is a very professional finish. Very, very easy to do, but a nightmare to thread. My overlocked edges, your zigzagged or bias-binded edges. The next thing that we're going to do is, do you remember that funny little V on the shoulder? This V here? We've got to close it. So backwards and forwards to begin with, right sides together, the V is closed. I'm going to go straight down, but then look what happens when I come to the end of it. I'm just curving a little bit and going off into nothing, backwards and forwards, just like that. When you've done the other side, remember you have to finish that off as well. So I'm going to overlock it. So now's the time for pressing all of the seams that you've done. I want them all pressed out. And remember, there's a rule to press towards the back. So what we do is we start up at the shoulder, and then we just cut around, going around the neck, but you have to remember that you are going to be adding ribbing on afterwards. So you might want to go in again and cut it a little bit more, because your ribbing is going to be about 1 inch. Now when you're happy with how your neck looks, then you're ready to apply the ribbing. And then you have to do the same on the other side, mirroring what you've just done. This ribbing is from an old jumper, and I've already hacked the bottom of it, but there's still some left for me to do the neck on my bomber jacket, and the sleeves I'm going to use for the cuffs. So what you do is you get the neck, you need to cut down where the seam is together, and then cut off a strip so it's ready for you to work. Now make sure that your ribbing fits around your neck, and then when you can see that it does, you need to mark with a piece of chalk the centre back. And then don't forget to do it on your jacket. Just put a little notch that will signify where the back of the jacket is. Now it's time to shape your ribbing to the width that you want it to be. We get the ribbing and we start at the notch and we start stretching it going all the way, starting at the centre back. Go backwards and forwards first of all without any stretching at all, and then when you've got a few stitches in there, you're ready to stretch. Now it's really important to stretch the ribbing and not the actual fabric underneath, and just slowly start working your way around with a centimetre seam allowance. And then when you go around the bend, you need to add some extra stretch for around the bend. And then you need your ribbing to go off into nothing. Now make sure where you finish, you need it to be about 1.5 centimetres away from the end, because that's going to be your seam allowance for when you put your zip in. See, just like this. Now you're ready to do the other side. Now when you do the other side, you're going to be working on the other side of the fabric, but it's still the same process. Just work your way around, stretching your ribbing and not the fabric, and then make sure your ribbing goes off into nothing and you leave the seam allowance for putting the zip in. So it looks like this at the moment, but then you're going to steam stretch it all back into shape. So you get an iron, a fairly hot iron with lots of steam, making sure your seams are pressed away, and keep the neck, very important, keep the neck in the actual final shape. So don't open it out into a straight line, you need it in a curve. And keep pressing it and stretching it back, the fabric back to its original shape. When you've pressed it, it's time to finish it off. Now I finished mine off with my lovely trusty 70s overlocker, but you can use D on the mini JL sewing machine and do a zigzag or bias binding. But what you must remember is you have to have, or I found it much better, have the ribbing facing down when you finish off that edge. That way you can control the fabric that's on the top much better. So this is what we have so far. Now we're going to finish off the inside of the seam of the sleeves going down the side of the jacket. So put your jacket inside out, find the hem of your sleeves, match them up with the armpit and match them up with the hem of your jacket. But you're going to start in the armpit, go out to the sleeves, armpit, out to the hem of the jacket. That's what we've got, but we haven't finished off our side seams, so we need to go back inside and finish off the side seams and the seam of the sleeve. Now for the ribbed cuffs of my bomber jacket. Now this poor jumper, it's completely been chopped to shreds, but what a good way to upcycle or recycle your old clothes. So I want my cuffs to be something like that, so I'm going to cut it a little bit more. So that was the end of the sleeve. So I make a little notch halfway on that, and then I'm going to make a mark on my cuff of where halfway is. And then I want it right sides together, stretching it over the sleeve, and I'm going to stitch it around there. Does that make sense? Starting at the side seam, right sides together, fabric right sides together with the cuffs, stretching the ribbing to fit the sleeve. But before I go anywhere, I want to match up that notch that I made with the mark on the ribbing, and then I give it the maximum stretch. So I've gone all the way around, you end up with that, but then look at that. How easy was that? Do the same on the other side and then finish off the edges with an overlocker or zigzag.